Good evening, everybody, and welcome to round eight edition of NRL Supercoach Off the Bench. I am your host, Ross, coach of Benchwarmers, and tonight I'm joined by Timmy O. Welcome, Timmy.
Evening, Roscoe. Good to be here as per usual. It's a very interesting teamless Tuesday with a few curveballs in there. So let's get stuck in.
Yep, sounds good. All right, so first game we've got South versus Panthers. For South, obviously a big loss for them because Cole Matangi's out injured for 6 to 8 weeks. Replaced by Michael Cheekham. Isaac Thompson returns from injury, with Tane Mill dropping to 18th man. For the Panthers, Liam Martin's out injured, so he's re-aggravated his hamstring. Not sure how long he's out for. Scott Sorensen will start with Lindsay Smith coming onto the bench. For the Eels versus the Broncos, the Eels have got no changes. For the Broncos, Thomas Legler returns with Keenan Palacia dropping out. And Corey Oates makes a return from his injury with Jesse Arthurs dropping to reserves. For the Bulldogs versus Sharks, the Bulldogs who can't take a trick at the moment. Jacob Kraz is out with, I believe, an MCL, I think it is. So it's not season ending, but he's definitely a trade if you've got him to talk about. And replaced by Braden Burns. Declan Casey comes into the side with Jaden Ockenball dropping back to the interchange bench. Jackson Tarpany drops out of the side. For the Sharks, no changes. And then you've got Cowboys versus Knights. For the Cowboys, Talon Malolo's out injured with Ruben Cotter named to start. Jordan McLean starts with Jake Granville, the prop man himself, dropping back to the interchange bench. Isn't that an interesting one? How's that for a bloke to have played fullback and played prop as well?
Yeah, that's an interesting player switch, isn't it? And can you imagine if he's doing that for 3 weeks and switching back and forwards? And let's try and see the powers that be stew over what sort of dual positioning they'll give him.
Oh my god! All right, Knights. For the Knights, Callum Ponga returns from his injury, his HIA, I should say. Tyson Gamble jumps back to the bench. Kurt Mann starts at lock with Matt Croker dropping back to the interchange bench. Got Jacob Tafidi returning from suspension with Brody Jones out injured. For the Dolphins versus the Titans, for the Dolphins.
Hold on, just hold a sec there, Roscoe.
Yep.
Interesting one with Cotter being named at lock. You would assume that he's going to get a few more minutes this week. Obviously, with Tomalolo out, they need a bit of extra punch in the middle. Cotter's obviously been a little bit underwhelming in relation to how he went last season, but I think playing him at lock's probably not a bad thing.
Yeah, he scored an 80 on the weekend as well. I think he scored a try. He got an 80. I don't mind the trading if you're playing head to head, but not overall. I mean, obviously he doesn't play round 13, but yeah, I do agree that he should get extra minutes from that now. I mean, Tamalolo's out 3 to 4 weeks. We should just discuss on this quickly. I mean, to me, that was a crazy contract signing by the Cowboys, signing a bloke for 10 years on $1 million a season. He's still got, I think, 4 years to go in his contract. And he's only punching out about 40 minutes in most games now. Like, to me, that was just a crazy sign.
It's interesting because at the time, it was probably really good business by both parties.
Yeah.
But just the whole concept of 10 years, we know the player deterioration rate these days is a lot more than what it used to be, although you do seem to still see some guys. I mean, obviously, Cam Smith is gone a couple of seasons, and Cooper Cronk and those sorts of blokes. But there is still plenty of guys kicking around that are looking at 300 games plus. At which point, if you can jag one of those guys early in their career for $1 million a year and they're going to become star players, then absolutely you'd be all over it. Now, Jason Tomalolo obviously is no slouch at playing footy. He's a really good player. He's been a bit of a shadow of himself over the last season and a half, I think. And although the Cowboys did hit some good form last season and looked really good for the majority of it, he's certainly nothing at the moment like he has been. Makes you wonder, though, like, has his role changed? Has his minutes changed? He obviously had conversations at the start of the season about questioning whether or not he could shop himself around and start to look elsewhere if that was going to ease salary cap pressure with the Cowboys. But yeah, I don't know. It just sort of almost seems like he's got a little bit of a case of the shits at the moment. And it's just he's not performing in Supercoach and not performing in NRL, I don't think.
Well, like you said, it may have been a good signing back then, but I mean, we've seen how much the game's changed in the last few years, and it's how quicker it's got. I mean, obviously the six again rules and all that sort of stuff. It's made a massive difference, and it makes it harder for the forwards, that's for sure. Yeah, it's an interesting one. It really is. I mean, he used to bang out 65, 70 minutes most seasons, and now he's down to about 45, 50 minutes. So to be paying a bloke, that sort of money to play that sort of minutes, and he doesn't really have much impact anymore either. To be honest with you, I mean,
and the hard part is then, I guess, when you've got guys like Cotter who are sort of the next big up and coming thing as far as the Cowboys are concerned, and probably Queensland's concerned. I can't imagine he's on much of a wicket up there. So let's say he's on 200 grand, 150 grand, something like that. And he's looking over his shoulder to a bloke who's getting 5 times as much as what he is and putting out the same output, possibly even less. It's got to start to put a bit of a sour taste in some of the mounts up there. And I think that's where Tomalolo was coming from at the start of the season or in the preseason, sort of saying, look, I know I'm on $1 million deal. I'm sure he's not putting his hand up to say, hey, can you cut my salary in half and share the rest around? But yeah, it just sort of seemed that there was a little bit of writing on the wall. And obviously the performances that he and the Cowboys have been putting out this season are a little bit subpar in comparison to what they have been.
I just think it's been probably 3 seasons since he's had a decent season at least. But look, anyway, we'll move on. Yeah.
He must be in about year 6 of 10.
I think he's got 4 years to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So.
All right, moving on. We'll go to Dolphins versus Titans. So the Dolphins, Kafusi returns from suspension, replacing Kenny Bromwich, who's out suspended. Love a suspension, that team, I'll tell you now. Jared Wallace returns from concussion with JJ Collins dropping out. For the Titans, Jojo Fafita comes into the side with Philip Sammy going to the centres and Aaron Shute drops out. Joe Vuna and Big Tino's brother are replaced on the interchange bench by Thomas McHaley and I believe it's Payne Haas's brother, Cleese, on the bench as well, to make his debut as well. Tigers versus Manly for the Tigers. Jareem Fuller debuts at fullback with Charlie Staines shifting to the wing. Asa Capella moves to the centres. Adam Dewey's obviously out injured. Shattering news today for him. Gone for 16 months. Now, he's off contract at the end of next season. That could very well be his career done. It would be a shame to go that way if it was, Timmy.
Yeah, it's a hard one. Like, looking at it realistically, you're talking 16 months, so add 4 months to now. We're talking August, September, add another 12 months. So, look, it's basically not just this season done. He's probably finished next season as well. So, yeah, like you said, I don't know about ending his career, but to go out at the Tigers, he's certainly not going to be, if they offer him another gig, it's not going to be on the coin that he's on at the moment. And it's got to be pretty hard for another club to pick him up anywhere near the same amount of money. So is it a case?
Not only the money thing too, it's his third ACL he's done.
Yeah. But, I mean, look, Teddy had a few early on. Turbo wasn't any better. And look at the players that they've become. So
yeah.
Maybe as he gets a little bit older, I mean, he's obviously not quite as young as what those boys were when they really hit the scene. But yeah, look, it is worrying. It is worrying, that's for sure. And as a Tigers fan, when he's sort of your marquee player or close to it, that's got to be a bit interesting for your team, Roscoe. But yeah, it would be hard for the Tigers to continue on with him, that's for sure.
Yep. All right, Tommy Talau and Dane Laurie join the interchange bench with Jake Simpkins and Sean Ball dropping out. For Manly, Josh Schuster comes back into the side with Cooper Johns dropping out. Ruby Garrett returns from concussion with Raymond Vega out. He's suspended anyway. Tuolangi is out with concussion with Ethan Bullimore named to replace him in the starting side. And Sean Kepi and Samuel Fainu joining the change bench. And he's on debut. I don't know much about Fainu. Don't know much about him at all. So, all right, we'll go on the next one. Roosters versus Dragons for the Roosters. Joey Manu starting at 5'8". Sam Walker being dropped. Thoughts on this one, Timmy? From me, I'll just have my quick say. I think he's been hard done by, Sam Walker.
Mm.
Their forwards are not performing this year, and obviously they've got a lot of injuries, and they all have to come back. But I think you need to have your forward platform to run off, as a half in particular. Doesn't really help when your forwards aren't going forward.
Yeah, look, I absolutely agree. It's obviously I've been a little bit MIA for the last couple of weeks with other stuff going on, but from everything that I've seen from the Roosters, I don't think the losses they're having are Sam Walker's fault. That's for sure.
He hasn't been playing that bad.
No, that's
Honestly,
exactly what I thought. So it's interesting. So is it a case of they just sort of figure it's about time that they've got to start getting Joey the ball a bit more often? The only way to really do that is to move him further in. He's obviously not a second rower, so starting to put him in the halves. They've essentially got three fullbacks in the team between him, Suwali, and Tedesco. So yeah, like is the writing on the wall? It's about time for a change, and they've got to do something. So give Joey a bit more ball and get his hands on it and see what happens from there.
Yeah, it's interesting. I thought they may have waited another week or two to do something like that. I mean, they've got Angus back in the team this week starting. They've got Tilly Tupanua back in the team, first grade as well. Obviously you've got Nat Butcher to come back into that team. You've got Nathan Brown there, so they're gonna click sooner rather than later. And whether it's this week or whether it's next week, I don't know. But so yeah, Paul Morosky replaces Joe Manu in the centre.
Yeah. So look, is it a case of they've kind of circled this game and gone, well, the Dragons are about as average as any other NRL team is going to be. So if we give Joey a crack and he has a bit of a field day, like it's good for everybody's confidence. It's got to be hard for Sam Walker. I mean, the Roosters, you'd like to think will give the Dragons a touch up regardless. But if Joey has a half decent game in the halves, and the Roosters do put on a bit of a cricket score, yeah, like it's good for their confidence, but it's got to
Not good
smash
for Sam
Walker.
Walker's confidence. It's not good
That's
for Sam
exactly
Walker's
right, mate.
confidence, but
It's got to smash Sammy Walker, that's for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. All right, Angus Crichton, as we said, returns after a few weeks out due to personal reasons. Played New South Wales Cup last week and had a pretty solid game. Nat Butcher's out suspended. Stilly Tupanua comes onto the interchange bench. For the Dragons, they've actually got no changes. The last game is the Storm versus Warriors. This, to me, is the game of the round. So for the Storm, Nick Meaney returns from concussion with Cam Munster moving back to 5'8". Jonah Pizzette drops out, and they get Big Nash back, which is a big in for them because they've lost Tui Kamasika.
Kamika?
How do you pronounce the thing? He's out suspended.
Chameleon.
Yeah, Kamakameliya. For the Warriors, Nakore returns from suspension with Josh Curran dropping back to the bench. I think Nick Meaney's obviously a big back in for the Storm. Timmy, Munster was a bit disappointing at fullback for those who traded him last week. Wasn't he last week?
Yes, especially at 800 plus K. You were looking for a big ton out of him if you had to move the pieces around to try and find the cash. So yeah, it was pretty disappointing. Look, Nick Meaney's not the same sort of fullback as some of the other guns, but he certainly does a job back there. He's going to be really handy for the Storm to get back in, that's for sure.
Yeah. All right. We'll go through the trades now. We'll have a look at some of the trading and trade outs now. Just bear with me for 1 second. Okay. So number one on the trade out list is Jacob Kraz. I don't think there's much to talk about him. He's out injured. Makes sense. Feel sorry for those who hate him. He ended up losing nearly 80K last week, Tim.
Yeah, look, yes, the cash was there, and unfortunately, if you went that way, you've lost a fair slab of it straight up.
Yeah. Number two on the list is Khan Pereira. He's done a really good job, I think. He's made nearly 300K. I don't think he's a must trade out this week, but obviously people are going up to possibly Manu or to Garrick, which I don't mind that. As long as you're not downgrading him, I think it's a good option. He's got a break even of 73. do you think is a must trade out this week, or do you think you can wait? I mean, he's a bit rocks and diamonds, isn't he, with his scores?
He is rocks and diamonds, but he's probably been in. It's hard because he's had the highest ceiling of all the cheap centre wings, and he's also had the lowest floor of all the centre wings. So he's not punching out many mediocre games, although he scored a 60 odd on the weekend. But yeah, look, I'd always say he's probably the safer of the cheap centre wings. I think I'd probably feel more comfortable playing him as long as it's not against sort of the top big four teams. I'd be more confident to play him than I would sort of Warbrick or Sloan or any of those guys. So yeah, I don't know. I've tossed this one up myself, as it'd be pretty handy to dump him and make some upgrades. But I think there's probably still some cash there to be made.
Yeah, I sold him last week. I traded him to Campbell Graham, so I'm not going to complain about that trade. But yeah, it's an interesting one. He got 60 something last week, but that was with 2 tries, mind you, including a junk try at the end. But yeah, anyway, number 3 is Chiruba from the Panthers. I think this is a good trade out. I think he's done his job. We all know the fact that Targo doesn't like to pass the ball. He's a bloody hog, like the other centre as well.
Yeah.
So it'd be hard. It'd be hard owning Chiruba and also to a title as well, Timmy.
Yeah, look, I've got Taruva, and he's definitely someone on my radar to trade out. The hardest part is he just hasn't made the cash. He's only, I think, 404 or low 400s anyway. So look, it's a really tough trade because you can't really do a lot with the cash. There's no new cheap centre wings coming through screaming pick me. So it is really hard. Do you hold him and he's just going to keep floating around that? I mean, he's only scored, 1 or 2 tries, I think, since the start of the season. So the fact that he's still pumping out a 50-odd average, and he's not an ugly trade, but like he got 23 or 25 or something last weekend in a team that played pretty well. So yeah, look, he's one on my chopping block if I can make it work, but it's just hard with no cash there.
Number 4 on the list is Keon Kalmatangi. I think nothing to say about that. He's out injured. Number 5 on the list is an interesting one. It makes no sense to me. Joseph Carpenter, Timmy. He's out. He's on the bye this week. Yes, he's not punching out big minutes or big scores, but he does play that round 13 bye and has got dual position.
Yeah, look, he's one that I've been trying to keep an eye on to bring in myself. If he could lose a couple more dollars, then I'd probably look at a Christian Welsh up to him for the round 13 bye and probably doing that sooner rather than later. I can only assume that it's guys that are probably, he might be their own, might be their second front rower. So it might be a case of they've got Payne Haas and then Tapane and sort of nothing much after that. So I would just assume that it's 20% of the field or whatever that's got him and are trading him because they need another front rower for this week. Surely you could run Urukamanu for a 45, 50 or something like that.
Even David Mawali got some extra minutes last week too. And looking at the bench for the Rabbitohs this week, could be the same go for him too. So yeah, it's interesting. Number 6 on the list is Reid Marnie. I think this is a good trade. I think he's been absolutely terrible. Said I'll go back to my comment a few weeks ago when I got drunk and didn't trade him in. I'm actually glad I didn't because I forgot to. So
you were pretty dirty at the time.
I was dirty at the time, but I'm not dirty anymore. I can tell you that now. The scores he's got lately, I'm very, very happy I didn't do it.
And I think you could put your house on the trade of Bimani to JMK.
Something along those lines, I think too. Yeah. So number 7 on the list is Stefano that we just spoke about. He doesn't play round 13, but I don't think it's a priority trade. But with that sort of money, I think if you're going to like a Tohu Harris or a Mato via Jules, I don't mind that, Timmy.
I think you'll probably find instead of upgrade, I think you'll find most people are probably looking for a downgrade there. I dare say, he's 400, 440, something like that. So yeah. I think you can downgrade him to someone like Moali, or there is a couple of other cheaper front row options that have come through. So maybe people are banking 100K and then using that to upgrade somewhere else.
Yeah, number 8 on the list is Isaiah Katoa from the Dolphins. 314k. I've still got him. I'm holding him in for now. Just for the fact that he plays me on 13, he's still making money. But depends on who you're going to. I guess as long as you're not trading him sideways to bloody Phoenix Crossland or something like that. If you're upgrading him, then I think it's a good trade out.
And it could be a case of people doing the switch to Josh Schuster now that he is named.
Yeah.
But look, I think the most important part with Kiptoa is his actual dual flexibility, being able to flick him between 5'8" and halfback. Like I already in the first 5 rounds or something, I think I flicked him back and forwards twice. So look, it's he's a handy dual, and I think going into the buys, he's going to be a handy dual as well.
I think a lot of people I noticed in teams last week, Timmy, that were running like Katoa and Schuster, and obviously Schuster didn't play last week, and I think you need to have at least one gun in that 5'8" position. It's hard because I know Dylan Brown's obviously the buy this week, because he's got a juicy draw coming up, and I think Cody, is probably not a buy now because he's gone up a lot in cash, and they've got a really tough draw south. But there isn't really much else up to go up to from there.
No, absolutely. I think it's you've either got Cody Walker or you go the other way down to Schuster, like we are just saying.
And it's like 500k to go to Munster, so I don't think anyone's going to have the cash to do that.
And I don't think that's the right trade at the moment anyway. No. I don't think the Storm are quite clicking just yet.
Yeah. Number 9 on the list is Wade Egan. He was on the list last week too. It makes sense to me. He hasn't been named again this week, I think. Because this is his 3rd or 4th concussion this season, is it?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I think they're monitoring pretty. He got cleared, but they've kept him out again this week.
Yeah, and the problem's going to be if he has another solid one, he's going to be out for a substantial amount of time.
Yeah. Number 10 on this is Paul Almighty. Yeah, I think he's done his job. There's not much to say about him, Timmy.
Yeah, unfortunately, I snoozed and losed last week. I wanted to trade him out and just kept fluffing around with it. Couldn't flick it one way or the other. So he's still in my team. He's all of just under 400k. I think he's 375 or something along those lines from memory. But again, it's just another one of these ones that, like Taruva, just hasn't made the cash. And at the moment, the trade's not really worth it because there's no cheapies or bottom dollar guys coming in where you can bank the 150k. So for me, for the moment, it's not a priority trade. I'd just leave him sit there.
Yep. All right, we'll go to trade-ins now. Number 1 on the list currently is Ruben Garrick. I like this trade-in. He has got a high break even though. So you can. I know they're playing the Tigers this week, but I'm trading him in. I think at the moment, but I'm just not 100% sure yet because I don't know if I want to use another boost yet. Yeah. So what's your thoughts on trading him in this week, Timmy?
Yeah, look, I'm all over it, mate. I'm trying to make it work. At the moment, looking at trading out 2 guns and a mid to bring in 3 guns. So that's the way that I'm looking at the moment, anyway.
Yeah, number 2 on the list we spoke about Joey Manu. Don't mind this trading, 623k. I don't think you're going to get him much cheaper. I think he's got a break even of about 110. So he may look a bit more cash this week. He does average. I don't know the stats, but he does average really, really well compared to centers when he played in 5'8".
Yeah, absolutely. He gets his hands on the ball more often, and that's exactly what you want Joey Manu to do. He does those sideward runs and a couple of fens and just seems to rack up the super coach points every time he's got the ball in hand. So, yeah, look, I was looking at bringing in Teddy this week. I think I'll probably bypass him and maybe go to Joey instead.
Well, we may as well talk about Teddy. He's not on this list, but before we go on to number 3, but I feel like with Manu playing 5'8", I think Teddy's isn't a buy this week. And the reason why I say that is because I've seen a lot of Joey playing at 5'8". He doesn't like to pass the ball to me. And that would concern me as a Teddy owner. That he may not go big, but he also could do too as well. With Angus and Stilly back in the team, he might get some good ball off the forwards. But it's an interesting one, even with Manu as well, Tim. I mean, we don't know how long he's going to play 5'8" for. And if he goes back to playing centres in a week or two, he's going back to scoring average again. Because what's he averaging at the moment? He's only averaging 46 points at the moment,
Hmm.
and his high score this season is a 71, and the rest of them are 31, 33, and 49.
Yeah, look, I've got no doubt that he can do it against the Dragons. I think the two second rowers coming in is going to make a huge difference to that football side.
Yeah.
I think the systems in place that they have, things are going to run a lot smoother. Obviously, with Angus especially and Tupanua, they do have the ability to offload. So I think that second phase play with the outside centres and wingers, I think, come into play a lot more often. So yeah, look, I like it. I'm thinking more and more that I'll bring Joey in over Teddy and maybe sit and wait another week on Teddy.
Well, that was going to be my next question. So you've got Teddy versus Manu. If you had to choose on your trading, I mean, obviously that's a decision that you're trying to make now. Do you go with Teddy knowing he's going to hit some form soon because he's definitely due? Um, and they've got a good draw coming up, or do you go with Manu, who's potentially going to go big this week, but may not stay at 5'8" and go back to an average score?
I don't think Robbo's the kind of coach that's just going to punt Sam Walker for a week. I think if they're putting Joey in there, like obviously he's got enough confidence in Joey to do a job, but I just don't. I don't know. Something's not quite right there. I'd be interested to know if Sam Walker has any slight niggle or a knock or anything like that at all. If it's just a case of he's not quite performing at 100%, I don't think Robbo's the kind of guy that's just going to put Sammy Walker down to reserve grade for a week to build his confidence and then bring him straight back up again. I think if he was going to try and find a way to give Sam Walker confidence, I think a full strength Roosters side against a team like the Dragons would have been the right way to do it. So it's interesting. There's a lot of people saying, "Oh, he might only be there for a week," but I don't think so. I think if he wanted to give him confidence, I think he'd be playing a full game against the Dragons at a full strength Roosters side.
Right, number 3 on the list is Jared Croker. He was high up on the list last week. Doesn't play this week, but obviously people are doing it to help with their other trades that they've got to make. I said it last week and I'll say it again. It's a scary trade with no job security as far as I'm concerned with Savage and Jordan Rapana to come back into that team as well.
Yeah, look, this is one of the trades that I looked at with Alamotti. Yeah, look, I understand the logic behind it. You can trade one to the other and bank 100K, which when you look at trying to find money to bring in a Manu or a Teddy somewhere along there, then I can understand it. But yeah, look, I don't know. It's Croker's been pretty average for a long time now. I understand he's the goal kicker, but with the other young guys coming through, I don't know. The Raiders have got something about wanting to give Croker his 300th game, and he's basically got to play every game for the rest of the season to do that. I'm not convinced he's the kind of player that's going to get there.
Dead set. The amount of times that the commentators brought that up in the game on the weekend, I was just like, you're going to curse him. Like, just.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And that's just it. It's I think if the Raiders can do it, they will do it.
Yeah.
But their season isn't so flash at the moment. Are they going to go, well, Jared, you're the club captain. Maybe it's time just to fade off into the sunset, let the young guys have a crack, and then hopefully we can win some football games. Yeah, I don't know.
I really hope that they don't do that. I really hope they don't. He deserves it. He really does. I mean,
He does.
I'll see him get there.
He's been a great player for the Raiders for a long time.
Oh,
He's been really unlucky for a long time with not picking up the centre spot with New South Wales.
And second, all his injuries he's had too.
Yeah,
I think the biggest thing for him not getting a gig ever for New South Wales was his defence has not always been great. And I think that's where the whole point of not picking him from Origin was. You need someone who can score points as well as save points, and he's probably not the man to do that. But let's just hope that he gets there. He deserves it. He really does. So yeah, number 4 on the list, Hayes Dunster. This is another no sense trade to me. I don't get it. He's cheap, I get it, but he's played 2 games at the moment. He's got a score of a 7 and a 27, Tim. We've got Bailey Simonson coming back from injury or suspension named on the extended bench. To me, this screams of stupidity.
Absolutely. It's a little bit desperation there. Look, he's 230K or whatever he is. So look, I can understand people doing it as a downgrade, but I wouldn't be expecting him to, like, you're clutching at straws to think he's going to jag a spot or get a long-term gig right through to round 13 onwards.
I understand that there's not many cheapies around at the moment, but I would prefer a centre wing second row forward dual Nuff and bring them in instead. At least they're going to be more useful than what Dunster's going to be. Let's face it.
Yeah, absolutely. And at this time of the season, like it's not a bad thing to have enough already,
Yeah,
especially if it's dual flexibility. You could either go, well, it depends who you've got at fullback as well. If you've got two straight fullbacks at fullback, then yeah, you'd absolutely go a centre wing, second row forward dual. Like I brought in Jack Bird last week, thanks to yourself, but also had not Liero,
yeah.
the guy,
Lumi.
yeah, the guy from the Dolphins. So
Yeah,
I had him as well, with the whole sole purpose of then being able to flick the two back and forwards. Was a quite logical choice. So to get through the buys and being able to flick guys back and forwards is really handy. So to have a dual Nuff there between second row and centre wing, I think that could be handy going into the buy.
yeah. Number 5 on the list, Ryan Madison. He's been good the last couple of games. Really, really good on the weekend there. I was looking to bring him in, but I can't afford him. I'll probably looking to go Tohu Harris instead. He's 100K cheaper, and he's also got dual position. Obviously, the other thing too is that Maddo's no guarantees he won't play Origin either.
Yeah, look, Matto's going to be a really interesting one. He's obviously got his concussion history, and we've talked about that a heap. He's obviously only one decent head knock away from 2 or 3 months out. Mind you, Tohu Harris isn't a great deal better.
Yeah,
He seems to get sniped out of the game on a regular occasion. So even last weekend, he pulled up sort with about 10 minutes to go. It looked like he was going to go off for a while. So yeah, look, it's an interesting one. I'm still really hesitant on Matto. I really like him as a player, but just that head knock situation scares the shit out of me. I've had him way too many times where Brad Arthur says, "Oh, he's going to come back next week," and 6 weeks later he makes his return. So yeah, look, it's probably not for me, but absolutely can totally understand why people would be trading him in.
yeah. Number 6 on the list is Josh Schuster. Yeah, obviously people are trading for him. He hasn't played his third game yet, so he's still got some money. He'll start making some money. Not big amounts of money because he hasn't got any decent scores, but playing the Tigers this week, he could be up for a decent score this week.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
Number 7 on the list is Max King. He's been flying under the radar. Uber pod this bloke. He got an 80, I think, on the weekend, and just yeah, he's not in many teams. He's only about 6 or 7% owned, and I've been keeping an eye on him. I like this trading if you're playing head to head, but not overall because obviously he doesn't play round 13.
Yeah, it's been interesting. Ming and Jing both plodding along, doing okay. No massive scores in there between the two blokes, but they just seem to be chipping away at solid 60 plus overall. And yeah, they are worth a shout, absolutely.
Yeah. Number 8 on the list is Junior Tupu from the Tigers, 436K. Kind of feel like this is chasing points. He did get a bang out a big score last game, and he did look really good. He tackled lots of tackle busts and stuff like that. But I think Manly's defence last week against the Storm was just absolutely outstanding. A massive turnaround from the 2 games before that they played when they got those 2 games, Tim.
Yeah, I think what was it the week before, 32-30 or something along those lines. It's I think Manly's defence is certainly going to be able to deal with whatever the Tigers can throw at them.
Yep. Number 9 on the list is one we've both spoken about. Is Will Penasini, Timmy. Another one fighting under the radar.
Yeah, it's a little bit cranky at myself. I talked him up about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and everyone kept saying, "No, don't be nuts." So, look, he's gone up about 100K over the last month, and seems to be playing really well. So, yeah, look, I really like him as a player. He played really well last season, or earlier before he got injured. So, yeah, look, he's a player that I do like. And yeah, I can totally understand that trade. Just
So
cranky. I'm not doing it when I
so
told
break
him.
so break even is 17, and he's only 4% owned.
Yeah. Yeah, great pod. And he's going to
Yeah.
play all 3 big bye rounds.
Yep. All right. Last one on the trading list is Nico Hines. I don't think there's anything to say except for you should already have him in your team. I mean, last week he went up 80K, so he's just under the 1 million tick now. Would you still be bringing him in at that price? I guess you have to. He's a keeper through and through, right?
It's a hard one because obviously everyone's got their own opinions. Joey Johns brought out his New South Wales predicted team today, and Nico Hines wasn't in there. I don't know if Joey's still on the magical white powder, but my lordy, if they don't find a place for Nico Hines, just sign the bloody trophy over to us Queenslanders now. They are absolutely mental if Nico is not in that squad there somewhere. So, look, I can understand why super coaches are grabbing him. He's just way far and beyond above what everybody else is playing out at the moment. But yeah, look, it's do you find $1 million for him? You probably have to. Otherwise, not only will you be falling behind overall, but you're probably going to get trounced in your head-to-heads also. I think it's just a safe option each week.
He's got a break even of 111 this week, but he can easily get that against the Bulldogs this week. I mean, the Bulldogs they've got Pele out, they've got Carraz out, they've got Adokar out. They're missing a few others, and the Bulldogs, they're just underwhelming at the moment, not doing too much at all.
Yeah, look, the Bulldogs aren't hitting the straps that we thought they might. Obviously, they're down on troops at the moment, but yeah, look, it's an interesting one. Look, I don't know. The Bulldogs aren't going to throw much at them, are they?
No. All right. Well, last point I want to bring up is we've had a few questions around when is it time to focus on head-to-head against if you're an overall player. Now, for me, I think we're only at round 8 this week, right? I think everyone's still in the running. Really now, it doesn't matter how far you're back. I mean, I've seen the last 2 weeks myself in particular. I've made up nearly 11K in the last 2 rounds. So anything's possible, but the bye rounds are going to be the rounds where you're going to recover the most. If you can get yourself a decent 13 for the 3 main bye rounds, you can make up a lot of ground there, Timmy.
Yeah, look, absolutely, Roscoe. I put in our group chat today. I crunched a few numbers going through the site. So for me personally, I'm sitting on 7,966 points, which puts me in about 5,400th place. Now that sounds like a lot until you go into things a little bit further. So I'm actually about 380 points out of the top 100. So at this point of the season, to only be off by 388 points, you're talking a decent captain selection and a couple of pod plays in there somewhere, and all of a sudden you're pretty damn close to where that was. Off the top 500, I'm literally 266 places off. So out of the top 500, 266 points. Then the difference between me at 5,400 and the top 1,000, we're talking 180 odd points. So there's nothing in it.
So what did you say that your total score was? So
my total score is 7,966. I think I'm only 150 odd points or something like that in front of you, and you're.
No, hang on a minute. My total score is 7,913.
Where are you overall?
8,006. So yours must be higher than 7,913.
No idea. That's what I looked at this afternoon, 7,966. But when you go
7,966. Okay, so you're 53 points ahead of me.
Yeah.
Right. But yet you're like 2,000 spots ahead of me. So there's really nothing in it, is there?
No, that's it. See, last week I was about 25 points below par and dropped 1,500 spots. This week I was about 40 points above par and went up 2,500 spots. Yeah. So look, it's there's bugger all in it. If you actually scroll through, if you go to overall players in the app and you scroll through, overall rankings and you scroll through, there's some positions where there's about 25 players sitting on the same amount of points overall. Yeah. So obviously that's 25 rankings that makes a difference just between one single point.
Yeah. Interesting point. I just think that Look, it all really depends. I mean, at the same time too, if you're in cash comps and you know you're starting to struggle a bit and you want to get back up there, then maybe that's something else that you need to look at. You know, focusing on head to head rather than the overall. But it really depends on yourself what you want to do at the end of the day. I feel.
I would think the other two things that are really key is how many numbers do you have for round 13 right now? So for me personally, I think I've only got 7. But you've still got 5 rounds to go until round 13 to make your trades. Then when you look at the other numbers that are probably pretty important, I've still got 34 trades and 2 boosts left. I noticed in one of our chats earlier, I think you said you had 29 trades and 2 boosts left.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, the fact that I've got 5 trades more than you, boosts are much the same. I'm sort of feeling a little bit more comfortable with where I am in comparison to where you are. But I think if you're a team who's max traded so far or thereabouts, like I've saved 3 trades. I've used 3 boosts, but I've saved 3 trades.
Yeah.
So I think that makes a bit of difference as well.
Yeah. Well, just for those who are planning for round 13 buys, don't go stacking up on Parramatta, Newcastle, and Manly players because they actually have the buy round 14. So just take that into account and be a bit cautious when you do that. I know Para play all 3 of the big buy rounds, but you don't want to be going in with 5 or 6 of them and selling your still short out for the round 14. You know, especially if you've got Manly and Newcastle players as well.
Yeah, I think Cowboys are a good team to get through the first part of the buy, but the hard part is the Cowboys are just not hitting their straps at the moment.
Yeah. All right. Lastly, before we go, so thank you to our sponsors, Bluebet. They're going to be donating a bonus bet to the admin team every single week. The boys are going to pick 1 league each, and whatever money we win, we're going to find a charity to donate to. So thank you to Brett and the guys at Bluebet for donating that for us weekly. It's muchly appreciated, and hopefully we can turn it into some winnings and donate some money to worthy cause.
Yeah, mate. Look, Bluebet's been fantastic for us this season, and they've been coming together with the goods every week. I think our top 3 point scorers each round that are Bluebet customers, or they've just got to have the Bluebet app, have been getting cash out of Bluebet. So,
Yep.
I mean, they've been really well supportive of us with giving us extra bonus bets and everything else. So, yeah, massive kudos out to Bluebet. They've been doing a wonderful job for us, and yeah, let's make sure we look after them.
Yep. All right. Well, that's it for night. That's it for today for TLT for round 8. We will see you guys back for our round 8 round wrap on next Wednesday, as there's games on Tuesday because of Anzac Day. So until then, we will see you next Wednesday night. Thanks again, Timmy, for jumping on.
Thanks very much. It's always great to be here.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.